Hello everybody and good morning. Welcome back to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. We are starting a new series to start everything off because, while we're in quarantine, nobody's got anything else better to do anyway. So we're going to get this started, and we are on John Maxwell's Your Roadmap for Success. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start this off with Chapter 1. Jeff, do you want to get us started?
I thought you were going.
Oh, I'll go first. It's okay. So, Chapter 1 is the journey is more fun if you know where you're going. So, people find it hard to define success, but if you don't know what success is, it's very hard to figure out how to achieve it. And success looks different for everybody because success is different for everybody because everybody's goals are different. So this book is going to help you identify and define the definition of success that will work for you. So success is a journey. John founded an organization in 1985 called Enjoy that taught leadership and personal development, and later he decided to move the organization from San Diego, California to Atlanta, Georgia. He let everybody know that if you're willing to move with me, you will have a job when you get here. Now, he was surprised that 90% of the team was willing to up and leave everything that they know to go and do this. And he's like, why was that? So before they left, he sat down and went over a list, and he's like, why were these people willing to leave their family, their friends, all their roots to come with me to be with us? So there were really 4 reasons. Number 1, they gave them a picture of where they were going. So how is this going to benefit the company, and how is this going to benefit the people? What did the real estate look like? And they gave them a picture of what it's going to look like when they get there. Excuse me. Number 2, they answered all questions. So taking a new journey, you don't want to create insecurity. People don't like to make a move unless they know exactly what is going on. Hey Michael, how's it going? Ryan is here. Almost couldn't see that from this far away.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So answered all questions, because when people have too many, if they're not certain about a lot of things, you want to. He created a list of what are going to be the most asked questions. What does the real estate look like? What are the school systems? And he brought all that to the table. And by the time he was done with the meeting, nobody had any questions. Number 3, they had experienced personal success in their lives. So with the company, everybody there on the Enjoy team was experiencing success, and so were the individuals. So they were responsible for the company's success at the same time were enjoying the fruits of the success. So it wasn't just the giant company, all the individuals had success with the company as well. And they had a sense of purpose with them. They're like, we helped this company get to where it is. We feel like we need to see it through. And then number 4, they were no longer the same and wanted to continue to have significance. So to take your journey, you will need what the people of Enjoy needed, which is also another 4 things. So you need a picture of where you are going, have answers to your questions about success, knowledge of what success looks like, and the ability to change and continue growing. A lot of people have a very hard time doing that because we don't like change, but at the same time we love change, but only when we can see exactly where we are going. So success is for everybody. The problem for most people who want success is not that they can achieve success, but the obstacle for them is that it's misunderstood success. So what is success? What does it look like? Most people have a vague picture of what it means to be a successful person, and it looks something like Bill Gates, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or any celebrity, really, for that matter. But the problem is when you look at all these other people, you can't completely become that person. Like, if me and Jeff can work all day long, but we can't look exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He has the genetics, he has his own look, And we can't completely become that person. We just become a cheap imitation of them. So success is different for everybody. So the wrong picture of success, most people wrongly equate success with achievement and some sort of arriving at a destination or attaining a goal. And it's really the journey to get there is the success. A lot of people confuse the destination part. It is a goal. You have to have a goal, but the person you become up to the point of achieving that goal is the success and all the things that come with it. So Jeff, do you want to go over the common misconceptions about success?
Sure. So, what does success look like? This was a mystery because success was kind of like showing up. When I first, before I read any of the books or learned anything from John Maxwell, success was just basically showing up or getting lucky. A lot of people see it as getting lucky. So what exactly does it look like? Wealth is one of the main areas that people look at when they're like, this person's successful. But if you know people who have made money, there's a ton of people who have made money and then everything's fallen apart. There's a ton of people out there who have money and don't have good relationships. There's people who have money who, have all the material things in the world but are unhappy people. So money by itself, wealth by itself doesn't do it. Now, it's part of, in some cases, but it's not all, because we all know that there are people out there who have had zero income personally, that have been truly successful. You have the Mother Teresas, the Muhammad Gandhis, the people who basically have, been sustained through giving, that have been super successful. So it's not wealth by itself. It says, if you make happiness your goal, you're most certainly destined to fail. Most people's, you hear this a lot. Well, I just want to be happy. I just want to be content. I just want to be this. And in general, that is a definite recipe for failure, just to be happy. Here's why, because, happiness comes and goes. Happiness is a feeling. It's not a permanent standard that you can, live every single day, because there are things that are terrible, like what's going on right now. And it doesn't mean that it has to totally affect your happiness, but you can't be happy all the time. It says specific and worthwhile possessions is another thing. People think, well, if I get this car, if I get this plane, if I get this house, that will make me successful. And again, if you've ever bought nice stuff, and I've been fortunate enough to buy some nice cars and stuff, I will tell you, after a while, the nice car is nice up until the time you have to fix it. If you've ever had a nice car, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and the expense. So power is another thing that people go searching for. They say, well, if I could just get power or prestige or a title, that would make me successful. And again, you find that a lot of people don't like you when you have that huge title or maybe huge ego, or you are promoted over them. So that necessarily doesn't do it either. Achievement by itself. I think achieving on a regular basis towards what John talks about here is probably a better definition of success than most of the other stuff here. But he talks about destination disease. He said a picture of success isn't the same for any two people. So a specific destination, making it to, if you were able to live in Hawaii or on the beach, most people think, well, if I could live on the beach, I'm definitely successful. And again, not true in every case. So he said the right picture of success is really what you're going after. And what does that right picture look like? What are the right principles? And here's what he gives as the definition of success. He said, knowing your purpose in life, growing to reach your maximum potential, and sowing seeds that benefit others. And I also like this definition, but I think this definition goes along with consistent and never-ending improvement. If you're going after consistent and never-ending improvement, then it's not something really you can ever attain. And if you're always improving yourself, hopefully you're making things better for you and the people around you, which is kind of what John goes into. So he said, you'll never exhaust your capacity to grow towards your potential or run out of opportunities to help others, because there's always somebody to help out. I heard a long time ago from a gentleman that I used to follow. He's passed now, but he was asked very often. I mean, this guy made, tons and tons and tons and tons of money. And they're like, hey, when's enough's enough? And he's like, well, I can never make enough. And they were like, that's materialistic, that's this, that's that. And he goes, well, he's like, I help people. That's where the majority of my money goes. And I really haven't been able to even see the end of where, I can make enough to help enough people. So it really is never enough. If I can make more, and he had a saying, that if you can do better, should you? And he's like, the answer is yes. The problem is most of us are lazy, and we get to a certain point and we think that's good. Well, that's good for you, but as Grant Cardone said, you selfish bastard, you need to do something for somebody else. And that was Grant Cardone's quote, not mine. So, knowing your purpose. It says, God created every person for a purpose. What am I searching for? What was I created for? Do I believe in my potential? It says you cannot consistently act in a manner inconsistent with the way you see yourself. So when we were at Grant Cardone's event, probably one of the biggest takeaways from listening to successful people who have at least made it big in something. We listened to, there were professional athletes, there were actors, there were business people, there were financial services people who had made it in a realm of different ways. And what I mean by made it, they had made it financially successful, they had the lifestyle, they had the majority of things most people would think would be successful. Jerry, how are you? The one commonality that they all said is you absolutely have to have a belief in yourself that you not only can make it, but you were meant to make it. And I thought that it was like an uncommon belief that you really don't find in most people. It was really, it was quite good. So believe in your potential. If you don't believe, you will not achieve. Actually, I wrote that because I was like, it's really, usually, that's how it works. Do what you can with what you have where you are. That was President Roosevelt said that as one of his quotes while in office. It says, the answer to the question, when do I start, is now. That's a quote by John Maxwell. So growing to your potential, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. In several of John Maxwell's other books, John goes into talking about there's only so much time in a day, and there's only so much time in a lifetime, where you can pretty much pick out anything you want to go do, and you can achieve and get better at it and get good at it. You can't really do everything. And he said, it's better. He said, don't necessarily go after and become a jack of all trades and master of none. And you actually hear people say stupid crap like that. Well, I'm just a jack of all trades and I really haven't mastered anything. That's great. That basically means you do nothing specifically well. If that's the case, that's also one of the principles in Think and Grow Rich. It says if you're a jack of all trades, you'll never make great money because people don't pay for average information. People don't pay for average, period. Think about it. Would you want to go see an average movie? Well, right now, we'd want to see any movie. I just want to go outside and see other people once this is over, of course. But, most of us don't want to see something average. You don't want to go to an average movie with average people and average everything. Typically, you want something. That's why if you look at car commercials, they're always talking about where the powertrain warranties, best this, and the fastest, and the most safe, safety features. They're always talking about the best. That's what people look for, and that's what people pay for. So if you're looking to increase your worth, you have to become the best at what you're doing. So the jack of all trades and master of none, he says what you want to do is become a jack of a few trades and focused on one. If you focus on one thing only, you'll get much better. So 4 principles to get on the road to success. Number 1, concentrate on one main goal. I actually learned this from one of my coaches, David Bird. Talked about, from the top down. From the top down, he kind of built a funnel. And he said, if you want to get really, really good at stuff, from the top down, you want to have a list of, as many things as possible that are dreams that you're going after in a lifetime. I used to call this your John Goddard list. Your John Goddard, if you don't know the story behind John Goddard, he was a gentleman who achieved massive, massive success. He, at the age of, it was either 13 or 14, he made a list and wrote down every single goal and dream he had in his life. And he used like some encyclopedias or something to make this list. And I mean, it was everything from, ride an elephant, to create a language, to discover, territory, to climb every mountain, to swim every ocean, to, see all the natural wonders of the world and the 7, greatest places. And I mean, he did almost all of it. Out of 127 things, I want to say he accomplished 113 or 114 in his lifetime. So it was an amazing list. But what I was taught is, starting from the top down, you want to have a list of all that stuff. Now, necessarily you may not be able to accomplish all of it, because you can do anything, but you can't do everything, which John points out. But that's the driver. That's the driver. Stuff that you want. Then you kind of boil that down, and I was taught to take that list and kind of come up with a 2 to 5 year list of stuff. The 2 to 5 year list of stuff basically is things that you absolutely positively want to accomplish in the next 2 to 5 years. That stuff gets written into a vision statement. And I've got a course that I put together that kind of details this out. But the vision statement, and I haven't finished this yet, which is something that I've worked on for, I guess, years, and probably because I lack the skill of writing. Pretty good at speaking it, but just can't write it. I put together kind of like a Mad Libs version of a vision statement. And what I mean by that is, it's a list of questions that you answer, and then you transfer the answers into a pre-written vision statement. The pre-written vision statement, then you can just read and fill in the blanks, and it basically gives you a very clear, defined picture of what you want your life to look like in 2 to 5 years. And the purpose behind it isn't necessarily to be completely realistic, as much as it is to drive you to create a vision of where you want to be at a certain moment in time, which is what vision really is. Vision is where you want to be at a certain moment in time. Purpose is why you're doing what you're doing. Your mission is how you're doing what you're doing, but the vision is where you want to be at that certain moment. So from that vision, then you basically come down, and we're talking about a funnel, big picture, all the dreams. Second picture is, the 2 to 5 year, and then the vision statement. Then it drops down one more to kind of what is your purpose and your mission? Like, why do you do what you do? When I went through this with David Bird, he kind of listed out he wrote out his mission and purpose, and he read it, and I was like, man, that was good. He goes, yeah, it took 30 years to write that. I was like, wow. And he goes, because we just kept updating it and, changing this and changing that. He goes, eventually it took me about 5 solid years to get it down to where it is now. So this is not something that's like you can do necessarily super easy, but it does make you think, and it does make you work on yourself, which is part of what John's talking about here. From there, and I know this is kind of detailed, but this is just what it takes to kind of, and this is why some people are super successful and some people wing it and throw mud against the wall and don't make it to where they want to be. But that drop-down list then goes from the 2 to 5 year and the vision statement, the mission and purpose, and then one goal for the year. He goes, basically what you want to do is you want one goal for the year that is in alignment with getting your vision, something in your vision statement that basically drives you towards, and you're writing that goal as a SMART goal, if you've never heard that before, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible, or time sensitive. So you're giving it an actual time frame, because a goal without a date on it is like playing basketball without keeping score. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that was a diversion off track, but we're going to jump back on track here. 4 principles: concentrate on one main goal. So that was a long way to say that. 2, concentrate on continued improvement. So this is the next thing, the key to success that I've seen for most people is, instead of having a goal and goal setting, John talks about growth setting. And growth setting is how much further along can I get each day? And John started doing this years ago, where he basically found his 5 things. And those 5 things have basically led to all of his success. It's led to him writing over 100 books. It's led to him speaking over 12,000 times. It's led to him creating over 7 companies. It's led to him making the millions of dollars he makes and has made, and accumulating some pretty amazing wealth. Now, how do you do that? You do that over time by continually concentrating on continued improvement. So I'm going to give you what John taught. John said there were 5 things that he did. Number 1 is every single day he reads. Second, every single day he writes. Every single day he takes notes. Every single day he thinks, and every single day he asks questions. So by doing these 5 things over and over and over again, that's how he's created all the content and come up with all the ideas for basically everything that he does. And then he hired people to do all the stuff he wasn't good at. By the way, John, I found out, doesn't actually write his own books. He actually dictates them, puts the notes together, and then Charlie Wenzel actually is the guy who actually physically writes the book. And it's amazing because if you read John Maxwell's stuff, it sounds like John. Like, you can literally hear him talking, especially if you kind of listen to his stuff. So, concentrate on continued improvement. How do you do that for yourself? Well, I found a couple things inside of direct sales. Number 1 is you're going to listen to content every single day. Listen or watch content every day. I mean, this is something that you could watch every day, but something from someone successful in the industry that's teaching you a skill or an attitude or leadership, something that will improve you in what you're doing. A lot of personal development necessarily isn't business stuff, but maybe it's more belief stuff. So that way you kind of have a better picture of where you're going. Second is read every day, which is really what this show's about. The purpose is to read every single day. I was wanting to get on track, and I figured the best way to learn something is to teach it. So by doing this class, or not class, by doing this show every day, it forces me to read every day to come up with the content for the show. So it just kind of keeps you on track, keeps you growing. And when I was doing this before, what we were doing is we were doing the exact same book over and over and over again, which is great for mastery. It was awesome to do the 21 Laws of Leadership over and over and over again. But what I found is people aren't really tuning into mastery. People are tuning into what's next. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into what's next, and I'm going to keep reading the same book over and over again in the background, and we'll just make it, we'll mix it up enough to keep it interesting for everybody that's an audience. Never let a day go by that you don't improve in some way. So by reading every day and taking notes every day, I found that those are the 2 things that really started improving and helping me just kind of seeing things differently, learning things. There's a really cool study that says if you read 3 books in any one area, you become smarter than 80% of the people out there in that area. So if you want to become an expert in anything, it really takes about 3 books to become smarter than about 80% of the people. Imagine what would happen if you read a book a month over compounding over years. 12 books a year. In 10 years, that's 120 books. I mean, how much smarter would you be than the average person? The answer is incredibly, especially if it's in one area like leadership or psychology or business or, financial services. So that's a really good one. Number 3, forget the past. So many people concentrate, talk about, and bring up what happened to them behind them. And that's where they live, behind them. That's why they keep running into shit all the time, is because they're looking behind them consistently, both mentally and physically, and then they're running in and their life is a disaster moving forward because all they're doing is living behind them. Obviously, if you drove your car looking backwards, but you were going forwards, you would have a disastrous drive. In fact, your car would run probably after about 3 minutes. But most people live their life like that. So it's a really good thing to forget the past, not forget the past. I mean, you want to know your past, but not to focus on it, to focus on focusing forward. And that's really step 4, focus on the future. It says sowing seeds that benefit others. The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. That was Albert Schweitzer. Dr. Albert Schweitzer. It says, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So that's a John Maxwell quote, right? Knowing your purpose is one of the key foundations to figuring out life, where you're headed, where you're going. So this was a list that I was given. Randy, how you doing? This was a list that I was given a long time ago, that list for achievement. And the list for achievement basically categorizes everything that John categorized. I just think it's a more specific. His version is very wide, without a lot of super specific points to follow. It's kind of like, hey, figure this out. If you read the rest of his books, he does give you the rest of the 5 that he talks about on how he mastered basically everything he did. So that's what we got for today. Appreciate everybody for coming on. If you want, I take notes on every single one of the books that I read, and there's probably, I don't know, I started doing this a while ago, but there's well over 30 books now that I've read, taken the notes chapter by chapter. But what we're going to do is we're going to basically give out those notes. We're going to give out those notes. So if you want them, on a daily basis, or you want the conglomeration of them, I'm going to put them all. We do have a landing page. So I'm going to put that landing page out on my Facebook page, as well as I think my leadership network. So you can go to Work with Jeff Gamble. You can go to my leadership network, and I'm going to put that for Jeff's notes. And basically, if you give us your email, we'll send out those notes and update you on what we're doing, both with this show, the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and then we also work in a school with Bess McCarty. So if you want to give us your email, you'll get updates on that, as well as the notes. So appreciate everybody for being on. It's good to be back, and we'll do our next segment tomorrow, Chapter 2. Thank you.